리플의 CEO, 그리고 리플의 기술 책임자. 그들은 전 세계적인 금융 솔루션을 제시하고 있습니다. 리플만이 가능하고 리플만이 일어날 수 있는 그 장대한 로드맵. 그들의 혁신을 바라보고 당신의 펀더멘탈을 다지세요.
Question here from the community: what is your completed vision for the XRP ledger? And that could be, years away, because there's iterations, there's things being worked on, innovation. What's the end goal? And I know that's a very loaded question, so as much as you can disclose.
No, I can tell you, I had this very early, and I think I've held it all the time. I still think that this is probably the right end vision, which is, and I've used this phrase many times over the last 8 years, is pools of liquidity that anybody can contribute to and draw off. And what I mean is we're going to be a multi-currency world for a very long time. And there's no end state in which we're not at least multi-asset. Even if, let's say, Bitcoin takes over the world, just being ridiculous, well, maybe not, who knows? Let's say Bitcoin takes over the world. Still, someone's going to want to hold shares in the real estate investment trust in the Seychelles Islands that I keep using in my example. People are not going to want, not everyone's going to want to hold Bitcoin all the time like that, or they're going to need liquidity. Like, there's no world where we're not going to need cross-asset payments. We're going to need liquidity. And what I've discovered, looking at the payment space, is that liquidity is trapped and assets are trapped. And I think that is a multi-trillion-dollar problem. And that's the problem that I think I've been trying to work to solve for the past 10 years. So that vision is, if I want to trade asset A for asset B, it could be a payment, it could be an investment, it could be taking a loan, it could be making a loan payment, whatever it is. Like, the concept of swapping one asset for another can encompass almost all of finance. And the idea is that the liquidity for that would come from public pools. And it might not just be one pool, it could be 5 or 6 different pools provided by different people. And then I think the other component is XRP as sort of the liquidity of quote unquote last resort. But I think, in the tokenized world, the long tail is enormous. And so, yes, there's going to be lots of USD to euro trades, and whether or not a digital asset could be competitive in that space, there are circumstances under which it can, but they're limited. But if it's that long tail, people across, like a truly global economy, there's going to be a lot of transactions that there aren't those deep pools of liquidity for. And so that vision is, if you want to make some asset liquid, you make it liquid to XRP, and then it's liquid to everything else liquid to XRP. And I think that's sort of the vision. It's still based around payments. It's why, I've never been, whenever someone says, let's add this feature to the XRP ledger to be competitive for the latest thing, like it happened with NFTs, it's happened with DeFi, I try to hold the line at saying, okay, but we don't want to make it worse for the use case right. We don't want to degrade that end vision. We have the technology to allow every financial institution on the planet to settle with every other financial institution in a compatible jurisdiction in any asset in seconds for less than a penny. Just think about this. Anyone who's made a payment knows that we're nowhere near that today. But imagine every financial institution settling with every other financial institution in seconds for less than a penny, any asset. That's fundamentally transformative. We have the technology to do it. Now we just need to figure out how to drive the adoption. And of course, there's all the challenges there's incumbents, there's regulation, there's inertia, there's the big players who are really trying to defend, if you're one of the largest banks in the world, you want to push pause or stop on technology. Because you're in the lead. So of course, you say you love technology, but obviously, you wish you could stop it.
Well, how did we get to where we are today? I think a lot of us were inspired by Bitcoin arriving on the scene. And I think we're seeing play out a set of events that we've seen with other technologies before. When the car first came on the scene, there was the Ford Model T, and it was just a car that, just one product. And over time, as that product matured, it became modified to be specific to different use cases. We had trucks to carry heavy goods, sports cars, and we had lighter vehicles, and a whole broad array of products, all aimed at the same technology, but aimed at different use cases. And I think we're seeing the same thing today. We have this new technology, blockchain, and we have all of these different use cases that people want to apply that technology to: payments, securities, reconciliation, trade finance. You probably are well aware that we have this put everything on a blockchain thing. There's probably hundreds of use cases that people are considering applying this technology to. But one of the things that we noticed is that at the root of most of these blockchains is a payment. So if it's trade finance, when the trade is financed, there's going to be a payment. If it's security, the security is going to be purchased, there's going to be a payment. If it's lending, when the funds are borrowed, they're delivered, there's going to be a payment. If it's a smart contract, it's managing someone's money, there's going to be payments. So what we observed is that the main problem at the root of all of these use cases is payments. Good payments make all of these use cases easier. Bad payments make all of these use cases harder. And we've taken on as our vision the Internet of Value. And by that I mean moving money the way you move information. If anybody has tried to move money internationally, you know that you have to be very, very concerned about all of these details. It's slow, it's expensive. PayPal doesn't interoperate with mobile money solutions. Everything is just a different liquidity silo. And our vision is to move money as easily as you send an email. And I think a lot of us thought that Bitcoin was going to do that. If you were here from the early days, we just thought, well, everybody would use Bitcoin and then all of these problems would be solved. But instead, what happened is Bitcoin became yet another silo, and now we have some 1,500 tokens, all of which are silos that don't interoperate. So what we've really done is we solved a different problem, and we reinvented the interoperability problem on a larger scale. So we need to solve it. Our mission is to reduce friction from global payments, and that's exactly what I mean by solving that problem, allowing money to move as easily as information moves. What we've seen in the market is that the demands on payments are greater than they've ever been. New corporates, companies like Amazon and Uber, need a seamless global experience to be able to pay people around the world. They need those payments to occur in real time. If you're Uber and someone needs money for milk, you want them to drive for Uber immediately. You want them to have the money for the milk that afternoon, that day, immediately. And you need certainty. Right now, a significant fraction of international payments fail, and it's a tremendously bad user experience, even when the payment succeeds, that you don't know the payment succeeded. So you have to contact the recipient, you find out that the payment went fine or didn't, you have to track it down. We don't have the kind of tracking that we really need to have. And of course, they have to be cost effective. If we're going to have micropayments, we're going to pay for web pages, and eliminate advertising, and have these new business models where machines pay each other, they have to be cost effective. Payments have to be as easy as pulling up a web page.
From the get-go, Ripple has worked with regulators, and we have worked with regulated institutions like banks, where there isn't regulatory uncertainty. And so we have found that part of the reason why XRP has performed well is because people realize, hey, wait a minute, back to your question, is XRP the next Bitcoin? Back to your question, is XRP the next Bitcoin? If we work with the system to solve this problem, and we can solve that problem at scale, a problem measured in the trillions of dollars, then there's a lot of opportunity to create value in XRP.
Competition because it requires capital to get it there. Our view in the future is you don't have to have this pre-funding, and instead you can use a digital asset to have global liquidity on demand. Now, we build upon a tech stack, an open source technology called XRP. XRP originally was built by some engineers who had seen some of the flaws of Bitcoin and the challenges of scalability around Bitcoin. Where Bitcoin today, per transaction basis, it's rather slow and rather expensive. XRP is very, very fast, about 1,000 times faster per transaction and 1,000 times cheaper per transaction. The other dynamic, of course, of correspondent banking is some of the more quote-unquote exotic currencies, exotic corridors have been left to kind of stand on their own. And the liquidity in digital assets could be applied to actually make that much more democratized and a level playing field.